Mr. Speaker, the trauma that my community in Parkland, Florida experienced was not unique. Gun violence tears apart American communities on a daily basis. So know what happened on February 14th when 14 students and 3 teachers were hunted in their schools with an AR-15 assault rifle by a former student. That wasn't unique. But the problem of gun violence in America is a uniquely American problem. It's an epidemic. It's a complex problem. There are many facets. But we know what we need to do, and I am committed to taking any step to getting any new policy across the finish line that will make our kids safer. This bill, the Stop School Violence Act, is a good bill. It will not solve our gun problem. It won't ban bump stocks or require Americans be 21 to buy a gun or fix our broken background check system or get weapons of war, the weapons of choice for mass shooters, off our streets and out of our communities. But it will help troubled students that need help get help, and it will help teachers and law enforcement identify potential threats before it's too late. Before we vote, I'd like to make a few things clear. First, this isn't a response to the tragedy at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. In fact, Congressman Rutherford and I introduced this bill a week before the shooting. The programs in this bill are based on rigorous evidence-based evaluation. They are proven to help reduce isolation and identify kids who need help. We had no idea at the time that we wouldn't be able to move fast enough to stop this tragedy. We had no idea that we would have an urgent need to help get more American schools access to these programs. But since Congress has failed the American people by ignoring the deadly scourge of gun violence, since we failed the families of Stoneman Douglas, just like we failed the families of Sandy Hook and Columbine and so many others, we owe it to students and teachers across this country to at least give them tools to help identify dangerous behavior. The failure of Congress to take action in response to gun violence has left the American gun violence debate in a ridiculous place. Armed teachers in every hallway? Is that what we want education to be in America? No. I'm glad this bill includes a specific prohibition against the use of grant dollars to arm school personnel, including teachers, or to train school personnel to use firearms. Since Congress has failed the American people by ignoring this scourge of gun violence, failed the families of Stoneman Douglas, the failure of Congress to take action has left the American gun violence, has left us in this position of debating gun violence where we're hesitant to even take small steps. This is a small and important step. I've heard civil rights concerns related to racial profiling and discrimination associated with threat assessments and anonymous reporting, and I am sensitive to those. Congress should never be in a position to make the serious problem worse with new programs to expand the discrimination already entrenched in our school system and society as a whole. And I know the evidence that shows that discriminatory discipline in schools can have dramatic long-term effects on academic performance and wide-ranging impacts. But this bill, Mr. Speaker, does not perpetuate discriminatory policies. Zero tolerance and other questionable discipline policies are not evidence-based, and as such would not be considered a proper use of grant funds. Stop School Violence Program grants are not intended to be used to discipline students. Instead, threat assessment and intervention protects potential victims and addresses the underlying problems to make schools safe for everyone. Finally, studies on evidence-based school threat assessment and intervention practices have shown that these programs actually decrease racial profiling, bullying, suicides, and suspensions. I am proud of the bipartisan work that has gone into this bill. And once we have taken this step, this astonishingly modest yet important first step, we must finally do our jobs and work together to make meaningful changes towards stopping the epidemic of gun violence in this country. I know that this does not go far enough in terms of what we need to do. I understand that. I believe it deeply. But it is an important step, a bipartisan step that we should take today. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. I yield back.